72% of British homeowners are unknowingly sitting on financial ticking time bombs hidden in plain sight by their local council. Not a technicality, not a typo. This is a legal loophole that effectively allows you to zero out your property taxes for a decade. Imagine the massive savings you're leaving on the table right now while you blindly pay those rising bills. The government records don't want you to see this, but the data is entirely public, if you know where to look. We're talking about specific towns where the council is desperate for residents and will literally pay for your relocation costs. One town even offers guaranteed structural grants that most people assume are reserved for historical monuments. If you're tired of being priced out of your own neighborhood, you need this information before these limited-time programs vanish forever. Subscribe right now to secure your spot. Choosing wrong could cost you a fortune. Let's break it down. Number 1. Stoke-on-Trent. In Stoke, you can buy a whole brick house for a single pound coin and still have enough left over for a massive night out at the local pub. Yes, really? No, it's not a scam. Stoke-on-Trent, Staffordshire. Population just over 256,000. Tucked away deep in the West Midlands, it's practically neighbors with Manchester's outer orbit. On the surface, it's historic, rugged, and has a kind of post-industrial grit that builds character. It's famous for pottery, oatcakes, and being wildly affordable compared to London's absolute madness. Let's break it down. Median home prices here hover around £145,000, but the council's famous revival scheme lets qualified buyers snap up empty properties for literally £1. Rent averages just £750 a month, meaning your dollar, or rather, pound, actually buys you a life here. Cost of living is a beautiful 18% below the national average. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The crime rate has some messy urban pockets, and the local job market isn't exactly a gold rush. Plus, that £1 house requires an intense financial audit, thousands in renovations, and a strict legal promise to stay for 5 years. As one Reddit to put it, everyone laughs at Stoke until they realize my mortgage is zero, but expect to spend your first winter fighting damp that the council paperwork casually glosses over. So, what's the actual price of affordability? You'll save a fortune on housing, sure, but you might spend your evenings wondering if your car is entirely safe or if the local high street is turning into a ghost town. And don't even get me started on the roads. I swear, the Pottery Zero roundabouts here were designed by a blindfolded toddler. Sat-nav completely lose their minds, and missing your exit means you're legally trapped in a residential cul-de-sac forever. Picture this. It's a brisk, misty evening, and you're walking home past gorgeous Victorian brick facades with a rich smell of traditional oatcakes drifting through the air. You hear the comforting chime of a distant church bell, feeling incredibly smug about your tiny housing costs, right up until you step directly into a massive, muddy pothole that deep cleans your entire shoe. Welcome to Stoke. And if you think Stoke's £1 property game is wild, wait until you see the offshore paradise where your council tax bill doesn't even exist. Number 2. The island of Sark. Imagine a stunning British paradise where you can completely vanish from the tax grid and still have enough left over for a lifetime supply of French wine. Yes, really? No, it's not a scam. Sark, Channel Islands. Population just around 500 brave souls. Floating in the English Channel, it's practically neighbors with the French coast of Normandy. On the surface, it's majestic, dramatic, and has a kind of untouched medieval charm that makes you feel like you stepped out of a time machine. It's famous for breathtaking cliffs, absolute silence, and being a place where cars are completely illegal. Let's break it down. Rents hover around £1,200 a month, but here's what you're working with. There's zero income tax, zero capital gains tax, and absolutely no council tax. Your hard-earned cash actually stays in your wallet. Crime is so low the island doesn't even have a police station. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The cost of living for groceries is 12% higher because everything arrives on a slow cargo boat. If you have a medical emergency during a winter storm, your hospital commute is a terrifying ferry ride to Guernsey. As one Redditor put it, Sark is heaven for your bank account, but if you can't survive without Amazon Prime next-day delivery, the isolation will break your sanity within a month. So, what's the real trade-off? You get ultimate financial freedom, but you also get pitch-black winter nights and a social circle roughly the size of a high school homeroom. And don't even get me started on the Wi-Fi. I swear, the satellite internet here operates on hopes and dreams. A heavy cloud rolls over the channel, and suddenly your Zoom call looks like a Japanese horror movie glitch. Picture this. It's midnight on a crisp, perfectly clear night. You're walking down a dirt path completely free of streetlights, staring up at a mind-blowing canvas of Milky Way stars because the island has zero light pollution. You smell the fresh, salty sea breeze and hear nothing but the gentle rustle of leaves, right until you nearly trip over a massive, parked tractor in the dark. Hey, at least in Sark, you aren't paying a council to ignore your potholes. Looking at you, Stoke. And if you think a tax-free island with tractors is an extreme move, wait until you see the Welsh Valley town that will hand you £25,000 in cold, hard cash just to fix up an old house. Subscribe before your smug co-worker finds these council grant schemes first and brags about their non-existent mortgage. Hit that button now. Don't let that absolute tragedy happen to you. Number 3. Rhondda Cynon Taf. The local government here is so desperate for residents that they are handing out £25,000 in tax-free cash for home renovations and still leaving you with enough change to buy a lifetime supply of Welsh cakes. Rhondda Cynon Taf, Welsh Valleys. Population sitting around 238,000. Located just north of Cardiff, it's practically neighbors with the stunning Brecon Beacons. On the surface, it's dramatic, tight-knit, and wrapped in the kind of lush green landscape that makes your Instagram feed look like a movie set. It's famous for its rich mining heritage, male voice choirs, and properties that cost less than a used car in London. Let's break it down. Median home prices sit at an absurdly low £120,000, and rent averages a tiny £620 a month. Thanks to the council's empty homes grant, your dollar goes incredibly far here because they'll literally fund up to 100% of your structural repairs. Cost of living is 22% below the national average. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. To get that sweet £25,000 check, the house must have sat completely abandoned for 12 grueling months. The local job market is a bit sluggish, and the unique valley geography means some streets get less than 3 hours of direct sunlight in the winter. As one Redditor put it, the grant money is 100% real, but expect to spend your first winter fighting damp issues that the council paperwork casually glosses over. So, what's the actual trade-off? You get dirt cheap living, but you might spend your winters feeling a bit claustrophobic under the grey mountain fog. And don't even get me started on the weather. I swear, the rain here doesn't fall down, it moves sideways. It's a permanent, aggressive drizzle that defies the laws of physics and renders every umbrella entirely useless. Imagine this. It's 8 a.m. on a crisp morning. You step outside with a hot coffee, breathing in the fresh mountain air as a gorgeous mist rolls over the deep green valley. You hear the peaceful chirp of birds, right before realizing the heavy Welsh downpour has completely soaked through your jacket in under 4 seconds. Hey, at least in Rhondda, you can actually stream a movie while it pours. Looking at you and your tragic satellite internet. Sark. And if you think a £25,000 Welsh cash grant is a wild incentive, wait until you see the Scottish border region offering a complete financial cushion tailored specifically for remote workers. Number 4. Dumfries and Galloway. In this sweeping Scottish paradise, you can land city-level remote working grants and still have enough left over to buy your own small forest. Yes, really? No, it's not a scam. Dumfries and Galloway, Scottish borders. Population sits right around 148,000. Stretched across Scotland's rugged south coast, it's practically neighbours with the English border Cumbria. On the surface, it's peaceful, majestic, and has a kind of fairy tale castle aesthetic that makes you want to buy a tweed jacket and write a novel. It's famous for pristine coastlines, dark sky parks, and a council that is aggressively funding infrastructure to attract younger blood. Let's break it down. Your dollar goes on an absolute vacation here. The median home price is an incredibly gentle £155,000, and rent hovers around £680 a month. The cost of living is 15% below the national average, and is officially ranked as one of the safest places to live in the entire UK. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The local public transport is entirely decorative. The buses basically run twice a day. The council moves at a glacial pace for planning permissions, and the summer brings an absolute plague of midges. As one Redditor put it, Moving down here completely saved my bank balance, but the midges will violently assault your face the second you step onto your patio. So, what's the real trade-off? You get massive financial breathing room, but you trade it for total isolation if your car breaks down. And don't even get me started on the bugs. I swear, Scottish midges don't care about bug spray. They treat it like a light seasoning for their lunch. They will swarm your eyes, ears, and soul. Imagine this. It's a gorgeous summer evening, and you're sitting in your vast, affordable garden watching a breathtaking orange sunset over the rolling hills. You smell the pine trees and hear the peaceful silence of nature right up until a cloud of 10,000 invisible biting insects forces you to sprint indoors screaming. Hey, at least in Dumfries, the weather lets you sit outside for 5 minutes before the chaos starts. Looking at you and your sideways rain, Rhonda. And if you think a remote Scottish retreat with a midge problem is a wild gamble, wait until you see the major northern city where the council expanded their scheme to sell actual commercial shops for a single quid. Number 5, Liverpool. In this legendary northern power haze, you can buy an entire commercial storefront for a single pound coin and still have enough left over to fund a massive celebration party. Yes, really, Liverpool, Merseyside. Population sitting right around 496,000. Located right on the River Mersey, it's practically neighbors with Manchester. On the surface, it's loud, creative, and has a kind of infectious, fast-paced energy that slaps you right in the face. It's famous for football, the Beatles, and a council that went viral for expanding their famous residential £1 house scheme into a full-blown shops for £1 initiative. Let's break it down. While citywide median home prices are around £175,000 and rent averages £850, these specialized council spaces cost literally a single quid. Your dollar goes on absolute overdrive here. Cost of living is 14% below the national average. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. You can't just live in these shops. You legally have to transform them into a viable community business. You are fully on the hook for commercial business rates after the grace period, and these spaces are usually located in high deprivation zones. As one local posted on Reddit, the council gave me the keys for a quid, but it took 10 grand of my own money to fix the plumbing. It's a brilliant gamble, but it's still a gamble. So, what's the actual price of affordability? You get a debt-free shot at business glory, but you might spend your weekend stressing over footfall and local commercial taxes. And don't even get me started on the parking. I swear, trying to find a space in Liverpool on a match day when Everton or Liverpool are playing at home is an absolute sport. People will park on roundabouts, pavements, and probably on top of your car if you leave a gap. Picture this. It's a buzzing Saturday morning. You step into your incredibly cheap city centre space, smelling fresh coffee from the local bakery and hearing the vibrant chatter of Scouse accents outside. You feel like an absolute business mogul, right up until you realize a massive delivery truck has completely blocked your storefront and your parking permit just got revoked. Drop a comment right down below. If your council offered you a commercial shopfront for a single pound coin, what kind of business would you open tomorrow? Let me know, and I will personally reply to the most creative ideas. Hey, at least in Liverpool, you don't have to fight a billion midges just to walk out your front door. Looking at you, Dumfries. And if you thought Liverpool's urban gamble was wild, wait until you see the coastal city using aggressive NHS incentives and under-the-radar housing discounts to lure people straight out of the expensive south. Number 6, Sunderland. This coastal city is using aggressive housing discounts and massive financial perks to draw people away from the south and still leave you with enough cash to buy an entirely new winter wardrobe. Sunderland, Tyne and Wear. Population around 277,000. Perched right on the northeast coast, it's practically neighbors with Newcastle. On the surface, it's bracing, industrial, and has a kind of gritty seaside charm that doesn't care about your feelings. It's famous for shipbuilding history, a massive football fandom, and being a leading smart city with ultra-fast public 5G rolled out by the council. Let's break it down. Your wallet is going to throw a party here. The median home price is an incredibly gentle £135,000, and rent averages a tiny £640 a month. The cost of living is a beautiful 20% below the national average. To top it off, the council aggressively backs NHS golden hellos worth thousands just to get key workers to relocate. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The local council tax bands can be surprisingly high relative to the low property values. The city center is heavily in transition, meaning empty retail units are common sight. As one Redditor brutally put it, Sunderland is dirt cheap and the beach is genuinely beautiful, but dress for winter like you're heading to the Arctic Circle. So, what's the emotional cost? You save thousands on rent, but you trade it for a city center that's still figuring itself out. And don't even get me started on the weather. I swear, the wind off the North Sea during February doesn't just blow, it slices right through your bones. It's a relentless, icy gale that will freeze your tears before they can even track down your face. Imagine this. It's a crisp evening. You're enjoying a bracing beach walk along a historic pier, smelling the fresh sea salt and watching massive, dramatic waves crash against the rocks. You feel alive, energized, and rich because of your low rent, right up until a rogue blast of Arctic wind hits you so hard you completely lose the ability to breathe. Hey, at least in Sunderland, you can actually park your car without it becoming a contact sport. Looking at you, Liverpool. And if you think a freezing coastal city with cheap rent is a wild transition, wait until you see the ultimate hidden benefit. A remote Scottish island paradise where the community literally bought out the land to give all the power back to the residents. Number 7. The Island of Bute. This breathtaking island is just 90 minutes from Glasgow, yet its radical, community-led land schemes mean you can escape mainland rent prices and still have enough left over for an absolute feast of fresh local seafood. Yes, really, the Island of Bute, Firth of Clyde. Population hovering right around 6,000. Floating serenely off Scotland's west coast, it's practically neighbors with the rugged Cowal Peninsula. On the surface, it's grand, Victorian, and has a kind of cinematic coastal beauty that makes you want to permanently turn off your phone notifications. It's famous for palm trees surviving in Scotland, glorious historic architecture, and a community that actively takes control of its own land assets to ensure things stay fiercely independent. Let's break it down. While the rest of the UK fights over tiny flats, Bute's property market is a total revelation. The overall median home price sits at an unbelievably low £115,000, with flats averaging an absurdly cheap £87,000. Rent drops down to around £550 a month, giving your wallet a massive sigh of relief. Even better, the capital town of Rothesay offers massive council-backed Victorian preservation grants covering up to 80% of structural restoration costs. Sounds like a dream, right? But here's what nobody tells you. You are completely at the mercy of CalMac ferry timetables to access the mainland. Sourcing traditional tradespeople for specialized stonework means dealing with a massive waiting list. As one islander posted on Reddit, I bought a stunning seafront flat for less than a standard parking space deposit in London. Just get used to the fact that everyone at the local grocery store will immediately know your business. So, what's the actual price of paradise? You get a jaw-dropping coastal lifestyle for pennies, but you trade it for small island gossip and a lifestyle that slows down to a crawl. And don't even get me started on the local shops. I swear, if the winter ferry is delayed by a heavy storm, the local grocery stores run out of fresh milk and bread in about 12 seconds flat. Missing the early Sunday closing times means you're surviving on leftover frozen chips until Monday morning. Imagine this. It's a gorgeous Sunday afternoon. You're sitting by a towering bay window in your cheap Victorian flat, smelling homemade soup and hearing waves crash against the shore as palm trees sway in the Scottish breeze. You feel entirely at peace and incredibly proud of your bank balance, right up until you realize you forgot to buy milk, and the only store within 10 miles closed 20 minutes ago. Welcome to Bute. Hey, at least on Bute, the wind doesn't feel like it's trying to physically separate your skin from your bones. Looking at you, Sunderland. Unlocking these council secrets is just the first step to beating a broken system. Unfair property rules can be bent in your favor if you just know where to look.